Hey everybody, welcome back to Art a la Carte, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I drew and how you can draw one of these cool dragons that I have now since turned into a sticker. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's a sticker. To get us started drawing our dragon, I want to show you two shapes that I'm going to draw over and over and over again before I actually pick one to be my dragon. And the first shape is this kind of weird rectangle shape. So one side of my rectangle is a little bit taller than the other side. How tall, you ask? Well, it depends on the shape or of the skull that you want for your dragon. If you have it really tall on one side and super narrow on the other side, you're going to have a really beefy skull that comes down to a really narrow mouth. If you have a really short rectangle, it's going to be kind of a stumpy skull. So that's why you're going to draw a whole bunch of these. So you draw the skull, and the second shape is this arched curve, and that's going to be the neck of your dragon. And you'll see I'm just on a piece of paper just drawing a whole bunch of these. No details, just this. And this is going to help you for two reasons. One, it's going to help you create a better shape. You're going to loosen up your hand-eye coordination so that your image isn't going to be nearly as stiff. You'll have a lot more emotion and fluidity in your drawing. And two, as you draw these different shapes out, changing the angle of the neck, you're going to find one that you like better, that you think, ah, this is the kind of dragon that I want. So ultimately, I went with a dragon whose skull shape was really narrow and long. And then the neck shape, I had a really good arch to it. I took inspiration from a swan, so the neck arches up above the skull itself and then comes down underneath the jawbone area. So it has this kind of candy cane effect to it. And I liked that one a lot better. Once you have these two shapes, now you're going to start carving into this and building onto this the details for your dragon. Think of it as a block of stone and you're chiseling out areas, but also you can take and build things up like clay. I love this part. Don't get set on doing super fine details and get that perfect line. You want to get your base the way you want it first and then move on to the next level. Draw with pencil, that way you can erase and clean up your lines. Draw lightly so that you don't have a super dark etched in image. Or if you're drawing digitally, you can just have a layer underneath. Delete that layer later. That's a tongue twister right there. Once my base shape is done, then I'm going to move on to the next step in the next phase, which is planning out my details, trying a couple of different eye shapes and designs, figuring out what kind of details do I want on my dragon. So thinking about the horns, I have more of a kind of almost like a beak for his mouth. He doesn't have like lips, he has bird beak. That's the fun part about drawing a dragon too, is that you can have it look any way you want to, but I love it if you take and you base different parts on something that's existing. The horns are based on real life animals, his beak is based on real life creatures, his eyes are based on real life creatures. I'm mixing them up. I'm like Dr. Frankenstein of the drawing part. But when you base something with a little bit of realism, it helps your viewer understand that this is something that could possibly exist. It gives it a little sense of realization. Planning out the detail part is probably my favorite because you just get to go wild with it. And every time I plan a different character or a dragon design, they're always different. So don't think your dragon has to look like my dragon. Your dragon could have goat antlers, it could have deer antlers, it could have bull horns, it could have tree branches instead of those. Try all sorts of different things, but also feel free, if you like a design idea that I did for this one, to use that in your design of your dragon. But take your time with this part. If you're not completely satisfied with how the designing of the details or the setup of the foundation for your creature is, don't move on to the inking part because it's not going to fix it. I took a couple of different breaks during this part just to give my eyes a rest, and then when I came back, I could see things that maybe were a little bit off, or if I wanted to change the eye a little bit, or I wanted to add something. once you have the design and the setup the way you want, now we can move on to inking in. Now, there's different approaches depending on whether you're drawing traditionally or digitally. Now, obviously I'm drawing digitally. I'm using software Clip Studio Paint, which is my favorite software, but you could use any software you want. Inking in something digitally is really safe because as you can see, I can take my sketch and I can put it on a separate layer. I lower the transparency so that it's just kind of a ghosting image. And then I have the inking on a separate layer. If I make a mistake, there's the edit undo button. There's an erasing tool that will erase anything. So I really like inking digitally. With an ink pen, the feeling of knowing that your mark is pretty permanent. When you lay that line down there, having that confidence. I have quite the collection of ink pens. I do ink in traditionally as well. It's not, again, my favorite method, but it is fun. So whichever one you decide to do, my biggest suggestion, as with almost everything that I draw, is to take your time. Don't rush this process. Inking in can be really frustrating because you can love your sketch, and then when you add ink lines in over top of it, it can change it and make it not look as good, and it's really frustrating. Just remember, the more you practice inking something in, the better you're going to get. And I know that's kind of like the lame answer that all artists give. Practice, 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 it gets better. But if every artist is giving that same advice, then it's probably something that's important. But here is a little hint, a little tip that worked for me because I had a hard time inking. I would find artists that I liked their inking style. So every time you ink something, each artist has a different style of inking. Some like a really bold, thick line, some like a really soft pastel-y line, some like a thick, thin line. So many different ways of inking. Find an artist that you think, I like that style, I'd like to emulate that style into mine. And then really study how they do that. If they make a video like this, where you can see them actually doing the process in real time, that can be really beneficial. I would study and study different artists and how they create. Even today, I will find an artist that I like how they draw something or the aesthetics of their drawing or painting, and I will really just study it. How did they get that? What about their drawing or their painting is appealing to me, and how can I not copy? You don't want to become that artist. You don't want to just be a reproduction of them. You are your own person, your own individual. You want to celebrate that, but it doesn't mean you can't take inspiration on how that person creates their art and go, how can I take inspiration from that and apply it to mine? So those are my two big tips for inking in: is take your time and keep at it and study how other people do it. And when I say it worked for me, it worked over years of time. Art is something that generally isn't an overnight success. I've met a few people that have been able to pick up art and within just a few months are amazing artists, and that's fantastic. But for the most of us, most artists that you meet, we spend hours daily working on drawing and painting and creating. And so if you find that you're in that same place where you're having to put in a lot of time and it's slow progress, or maybe it seems like there's no progress, just know you are in great company, because you are where all of us have been or currently still are. So yay for us. Go team artists that have to put in the work. So far, this has all been in real time. I didn't want to speed through the drawing process of this or the inking in process for this dragon, but I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. There's not a lot I can tell you about how I colored that isn't really just shown in the process of it, except that it was a lot of time. For this dragon, oftentimes I will theme my dragons on an element or an object. I've done like lava dragons and water dragons and forest dragons. And this one I wanted to do kind of a dark cave dragon. I wanted this dragon to look like he could just kind of blend into a nighttime mountain face, and you'd be walking along and all of a sudden there's a dragon right there. And maybe the only thing that would set him off is his eye would be a really bright color. So I chose kind of to go with a bluish green, gray tones for the dragon's scales, his horns, all of that. And then his eye, I decided to go with a complementary color. So if I look at my greens, that's red, and if I look at blues, those are kind of orangish. So I chose kind of a magenta, fiery magenta color to be his eye. It just looks like this jewel that's nestled into this rock face of a dragon. At the end, I decided to turn my dragon into a sticker. I might offer him as a free bonus thing for the next couple of orders that I get on my Etsy shop. So if you order a print or something, I have made several of these stickers up. So I'm going to put some of those in as a little bonus for everyone. If you're interested, because I really just love making my art into stickers. It's so much fun. So if you're interested in creating and turning your art into stickers, I would check out this video right here. I show you how I do this using my silhouette cutting machine and my art. So it's not a lot to get going into making sticker art. If you want to see up close on the sketches and get a copy of the inked line art for yourself, I'll have that over on my Patreon for all my Patreon people as a reward for them, so you can check that out. All those links are in the description box below. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, feel free to do that. Hit that notification bell. We'll let you know every time I upload a new video. And as always, God bless you guys. Keep being creative and awesome, and we'll see you in the next art video. Bye-bye!